All right, guys, what's going on? We're going to be going over the one-arm dumbbell row, and this is a classic exercise. It's one of the foundational exercises for upper back training, for pulling training. It is great for the rear shoulder, the upper back. There's also a core anti-rotation element to it, and we're getting some bicep in there as well, so a little bit of arm toning too. I'm going to show you the setup. Some common mistakes, how I incorporate into workouts, and of course, like I said, some things that we want to watch out for, and some programming implications from there. So the setup, and if you've seen the 3-point dumbbell row where I go one hand on the bench and I'm off with 2 feet here, the one-arm dumbbell row, the more classic variation is I'm going to go one knee on the bench, I'm going to kick my leg out. So I like putting out my leg either right beside my knee, or even a little back behind to keep my hand, so my knee is out of the way of my arm. That's a judgment on your feel and your comfort level. It just depends on how you like it. So you can really put your leg anywhere. But the key is that as the leg goes down, we want the upper back parallel to the bench. Again, we want this knee out of the way. We want eyes on the bench at all times. And the main thing, of course, the back is flat. We got a little bit of a curve in the upper back at the top, and then a little curve in the bottom. My back probably looks flat because I have a very flat back, but some people have more accentuated curves. But the key is that we want that neutral spine that's flat, eyes on the bench. And as I grab the dumbbell, I lift it off the floor. I pull straight towards the elbow, and I'm right back down. So I'm pulling the dumbbell a little bit backwards towards the elbow, and right back to the start. So as you saw, as I pulled it up, the shoulder came up, and that's me using my upper back. So as I pull my shoulder back, that's upper back muscles working. We want that because some people will actually kind of go like this and just use the arm, and the shoulder will just kind of stay down here, and we can actually get some problems at the front of the shoulder as the front of the shoulder ends up poking through. So we want to pull the shoulder back using those upper back muscles right in between our shoulder blades. And the other thing you want to keep an eye on is making sure that you don't go too far over with your elbow. So once we've gotten to this point where my elbow is just peeking over my upper back, and you can use a mirror or something, or shoot a video if you need to see it, but we don't want to see this, which you'll see a ton, where people think that the farther they pull it, the better, and they'll kind of go up like that, all the way to kind of like, they're lifting the lawnmower, or they're just jerking it right up, or they're just pulling the elbow really high. We don't need to do that. We just want to come up right about here, and then right back down. And again, you might not be able to see if you're pulling directly toward the shoulder, or towards the elbow, sorry. So right here, pulling right, so that the dumbbell or my fist is vertical of the elbow compared to the floor, and that's basically just stacking joints on top of the weight to make sure that we're getting the best muscle activation possible, the best biomechanics possible for the best lift possible. But it's not exactly a wrong thing to pull it back, but that's a different exercise. So for the typical dumbbell row, you're going to want to pull it straight to the elbow. And the other thing that some people do is they actually pull the dumbbell almost towards their armpit. So I like to tell people to keep the dumbbell out of your armpit and back here a little bit more. Again, don't pull it too high, and don't be shifting the body around. Make sure the eyes stay on the bench and that core stays flat, and that you're using that upper back effectively. So usually I'll set these up for about 8 per side, 10 per side, 12 per side, and maybe even a little bit higher. And one last thing with the dumbbell row is whenever you're doing pulling exercises, they're much more prone to being exercises that you can use momentum with. So if I had a really, really heavy weight and I was like ego lifting and I wanted to show how everyone was strong, and I grabbed like the 120 dumbbell, and I'm just like, I'm basically doing the lawnmower thing where I'm starting the lawnmower and I'm just throwing it up. Half the time my muscles aren't even doing the work. I'm just kind of throwing it up and letting momentum take it along for the ride. So when you're doing back exercises, whether it's a lat pull down, or whether it's a rear delt fly, or whether it's a dumbbell row, you want to make sure that you're controlling it through the whole way, but also choose a weight that you can pause at the top with for like a brief second. So as I pull this 25, which is pretty light for me, I can pause for a second, go back down. So it's not that you have to pause, but you should be using a weight that if you were told to pause at the top, you would be able to. And this keeps us from using weights that are too heavy and using weights that are more appropriate so that we're actually getting full benefits of the exercise and actually working the muscles we want to work, rather than just throwing the dumbbell up and showing people who don't really matter too much how strong we are, when anyone who knows what they're doing kind of just knows your ego lifting and knows you're trying to show people how strong you are. So make sure that you can actually pause whether you do or not, and you'll be using the right weights. But these are great for your upper back, core, anti-rotation, biceps, and rear shoulders. It's a classic exercise, one that I go back to a ton with clients. So that is the one-arm dumbbell row with the knee on the bench. If you have any questions, just shoot one at me.